So yeah, so a few sort of then introductory topics on digital twins of the ocean. Just who's heard of a digital twin of the ocean? Just put your hands up. Yeah, okay, that's quite a few people. So for me, I just wanted to set the stage a little bit with thinking about digital twins and what they're useful for, and comparisons to other digital twins. So the digital twin, in my mind, is a concept of, in some respects, a policy mechanism or a decision-making tool. It's a way of representing an environment digitally, and you have all of the data. You can see if you make a change in that environment, what the impact would be, and that allows you to take decisions. So in the ocean context, you know, if we were to put this concrete breakwater in, as was presented before, the digital twin concept would allow you to sort of simulate what would happen if you did that and what the impact would be on the biodiversity. And when I've talked about digital twins in the past, I've often made a comparison between digital twins of something like an airport, because that's quite an easy one to understand. So if you go into an airport, there are so many sensors. There are things like you scan your QR code when you go through the barriers. There's cameras everywhere watching you. You channel yourself through. The bags all get, you know, tagged, and so you can create a digital twin of an airport really relatively easily, because you have so much data available to you. And when you contrast that with the ocean, well, we all know here as marine scientists or people working in the ocean, it's a completely different kettle of fish. It's a very harsh environment. There are lots of areas where we just simply lack data. So building digital twins of the ocean is a really big challenge, and something that we're going to dig down in today. So to set the scene, we have a few presentations. The first, Elisabetta Balzi from the European Commission. So Elisabetta is the head of the Healthy Seas and Oceans Unit and the director of A Healthy Planet. Very much looking forward to your presentation, Elisabetta. I believe you'll have a little machine that comes along to help you change the slides, and there it is.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here in this beautiful setting of Porto Vigo today. I would like to thank particularly the organizers, Sheila, Angel, Gilles, and all those who contributed to the organization of this gathering, which is key for us, and it's really a very important moment for our European mission, our joint mission to restore our ocean and waters by 2030. And today I would like to present you very briefly, within the mission, the importance of a digital twin of the ocean, and what are we doing with the mission, what can we do together. And you already heard yesterday in the presentation by our director, John Bell, how much our mission to restore our ocean and waters is at the core of EU policy making. Here you see our President Ursula von der Leyen, that only 1 year ago, a little bit more than 1 year ago, announced at the One Ocean Summit the commitment of a union to restore our ocean and waters with major investments. And she also announced in that occasion that we would deliver a precursor of European digital twin of the ocean by 2024. So we only have 1 year to go, and so a very important deliverable ahead of us. Just as a reminder, yesterday John already mentioned it, our mission has 3 main objectives: protecting and restoring the biodiversity and ecosystems of ocean, seas, and inland waters. We see the waters as a whole, one unique system, the hydrosphere. And the second is pollution, so reducing pollution, and then making the blue economy carbon neutral and circular. And we have for each of these objectives very specific targets which are stated in our regulations. In addition to that, very important are 2 enablers, because the mission is actually a very broad strategic mobilization initiative. It's not something which is happening somewhere in Brussels. It's happening on the ground, and everybody needs to be on board. So we are very glad that today, particularly the scientific community and all the other actors that we heard, including reports that we just heard, are part of our mission. And the 2 enablers are the public mobilization and engagement, and then the digital ocean and waters knowledge system. So it is very important, it's already stated in our mission, it is very important that we enhance the knowledge, the digital knowledge of our ocean and water systems. And that is why we are engaging, and we are investing also important efforts to deliver this digital twin of the ocean For what? So what this is very important. It's for better, ultimately it's for the citizens. So the DTO is intended to be a public good and a public service. So it's supposed to be based on a very strong scientific and technological basis. And here I think the scientific community is playing a key role. And in the end, it needs to benefit the citizens. It needs to feed into policymakers, those who have to make decisions at national, regional, or local level. It needs also to help the private sector in order to plan investments which are in line with, for example, our Green Deal. So this is the main principle of our digital twin of the ocean. And what I would like to mention that as our mission is a broad mobilization initiative, as I said, all stakeholders are invited to be part of our mission. We gather the communities of actors for our mission through a charter. So I would like to invite you all, those who did not adhere yet, to adhere to the mission charter. It's a symbolic adhesion. It means that you are part, either as a scientific community or a national government, local government, region, a port, an island, or simply a citizen, an interested citizen school, to adhere to our mission charter, because there we are gathering all our actions, and then as Commission we are supporting those who want to implement a mission with specific actions. So please adhere, it's very simple. There is a website, and here just to show that, for example, the actions which are submitted to date, we have more than 250 actions only for this enabler of a digital knowledge, which go beyond our program. So it's external actions for €2.5 billion already mentioned in our charter. So I would like, it's a very important mobilization already happening beyond our programs. As I already mentioned shortly, that so the purpose is to structure and integrate this ocean knowledge, ocean and waters knowledge, for the ocean actors, the citizens, the policymakers, the private and the public sector. And so we have a science-driven approach, a very important science and technological basis, but which is not sufficient. We are integrating, of course, social and economic dimensions, and we are supporting also the private sector, and especially we want to have a very important participation of the citizens since the very early phases of a DTO development. So how are we planning to do that? By integrating and connecting a wide range of data and models and infrastructures, and also providing development kits and interfaces and visualization tools for those who have to decide and implement these actions. So the vision, I think I mentioned it already, we are working along those three objectives, and we would like to implement this ocean knowledge and put it at the service of a local context. We are building on three pillars of actions. We are working on the science base, and here we have a broad portfolio of projects in our research and innovation program, but also beyond our research and innovation program. We work, of course, hand in hand with the national programs. You've heard about the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. There we have a partnership with the national programs, and we work also on the digital twins in order to build also local twins. We are supporting the development of the EU core infrastructure, and this is through the mission work program that we have in our Horizon Europe program. And of course, we are working at integrating this EU precursor in the global context. We are not working in isolation, obviously. So important principle is that the European digital twin of the ocean is expected to be inclusive and open, inclusive at all levels, certainly at the scientific research and innovation level of all the projects which are involved, whether they are European or national. So we are co-developing in collaboration with all the willing projects and all the willing stakeholders. Very important, we want to co-develop it at local and regional level with specific applications. So it will not be one single digital twin of the ocean. We want to have an harmonized structure, but then with several developments which are adapted to the local needs. And then with, so it should be open with interoperability with other similar initiatives, including the international initiatives. You can all contribute, and we are looking forward to a contribution by all. We have held a first Digital Ocean Forum in Brussels this year, gathering more than 50 projects who are contributing from our programs to different aspects of a digital twin of the ocean. And we are planning a larger forum in probably in June next year in Brussels. This is the example of how our EU programs, that I repeat, they are not the only ones, but how our EU programs are contributing to this overall knowledge. We did an analysis of nearly 20 EU programs, and we found that we have nearly 200 projects which are very relevant for the digital twin of the oceans. We are already spending in these projects more than 1 billion euros. Most of them are research and innovation projects, but they are not only research and innovation projects. So here you see we have done a scan through 16 different EU programs, including the structural funds, Interreg, and so which have also important projects working on it. We have gathered those, let's say, more than 50 projects which are running in Brussels in the first forum that we did this year. And so this is to give you an example of how our program is contributing to the knowledge base. Now, of course, it's important to bring all this together, and this is our role, actually, to try to bring all together. And in addition to that, what we are doing now in the Mission Work program in order to contribute to building this EU core infrastructure is that we have specific calls. Since during the last 3 years, we had specific calls, including for the digital twin of the ocean. We have already spent about 30 million euros only in these calls. And in the beginning, it was for this infrastructure where we are based mainly on the two main assets, European assets. So EMODNet, which is operated by the France Marine Institute, and the Copernicus Marine Services, which are operated by Mercator Ocean, that we will hear after me by Pierre. So this was in the first year, we supported this. Then we supported projects for the integration of a biodiversity element. So the element of biological parameters, it's a very important, let's say, not typical one that it needs to be further developed. So we are investing on that. Also eDNA aspects. Then we have now just closed the call where we are expanded to socio-ecological models, so not only physical and biological models, but also socio-ecological models, and also integration of the inland water, so not only seas and oceans, but also inland waters. This is a current call, and we are planning other calls to deploy, especially at local level for infrastructure. We are, of course, coordinated with the world landscape. We are linking with the national initiatives through the partnership. We are, of course, collaborating with the UN Decade of Ocean Science, with the European Space Agency, the G7 Future of Seas and Oceans. Then we have also important aspects on the All Atlantic Ocean Research Innovation Alliance. So we are integrated, we are focusing on the EU precursor, but of course in an integrated manner with international initiatives. And I wanted to end by mentioning that indeed one of the other programs that we support and that has been presented is Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. It's a partnership between the Commission and the countries, member states and associated countries, where we are joining forces between the European program and the national programs. And here also we just closed a call on the digital twin of the ocean local DTO, so to develop local DTOs in subsea basin scale. So you see here also how important it is for us, the local and the regional aspect, and also in coordination with central, let's say, overall infrastructure. So this is also an important aspect of the current investment. And with this, I think I will finish this quick landscape of what we are doing at EU level for the digital twin of the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. You've really set the scene well, and also lined up our next speaker, Pierre Buchel, who has the task of implementing the European digital twin of the ocean. So just a few words on Pierre. He's the Director General of Mercator Ocean. It's a non-profit organization which has been entrusted by the European Commission to implement the Copernicus marine services and also preparing the way for the European digital twin of the ocean. So everything that Elisabetta just mentioned, all the hopes and aspirations and dreams, Pierre will now tell you how we're going to do it.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much, Elisabetta, for this, this first talk, which is super for me to follow. And thank you to the organizer for this occasion to explain to you. You have to understand, it has been said very quickly by Elisabetta Balzi, that the President of the European Commission herself declared 18 months ago that we will be ready in Europe with a full digital twin ocean by 2024, which was a kind of a big bang in our community. We were prepared, we were fully aware of this need to move from what we are doing today, which is modeling the ocean, simulating the drifting of the pollutants in this here or at the global scale. And we were ready to move to digital twin with more interactivity, but come on, doing this in 2 years or 3 years was really something that was impossible. And this is where we were at the level of the definition of the digital twin ocean when Ursula von der Leyen declared, okay, we will be ready in 2024. We were thinking about having really a new way of talking about this digital twin, accessing the ocean knowledge, inviting citizens, policymakers around the same ocean, and opening the possibility to interact with this ocean and you're asking the question and you get a reply. This is not us who are delivering data or predefined things. So this is really a global cooperation platform. This is exactly what, and this is what it will be. But I want to illustrate the backstage story of what has been presented by Elisabetta about what the European Commission has set up to make it happen. So the first thing when we received this message from the European Commission, the President of the European Commission, was to say, okay, we need to mobilize all energies and make sure we are all there on board to deliver this digital twin ocean that will really change the way of thinking. And I really think that this is happening and that the way the European Commission, the EU, is implementing this digital twin ocean could be a landmark example. This is quite unique. And just to illustrate, we have different frameworks for action. We have this mission, restore our ocean and waters. We have what the others are doing in different thematic areas, what we do in the member states and what it is done at the UN decade or international level. And we decided to go with everyone and mobilize all the energy. And look at this, the first things, which is this, the way we see the role of the mission, breaking the walls between the different DGs to make sure that we will value all the EU investment, play with the EMONET super service infrastructures, invite the Copernicus one, invite all the projects that are doing some elements, the modeling, and you saw the list of the project. Invite Iliad, the Iliad project. They have started before that, developing these digital twin oceans, all together in the same things. And we were looking for a framework to work all together. And this is exactly what is doing this mission, restore our ocean and waters. And this is unique because we have a framework to work all together and make sure that we are bringing together all the skills and all the project initiatives. We are also considering very seriously what the others are doing. Destination Earth, DG Connect, focus on climate adaptation and extreme weather events, developing standards, developing infrastructures. We stay tuned with them to be fully compliant and make sure that this digital twin ocean that we are developing in the mission will be fully connected with what they are doing. We see what the European Space Agency is doing. They have a research program fully devoted to digital twin components. We work with them. We also make sure that we are fully compliant with the standards. We invite all the partners and we recognize that digital twin is something that has been invented by industry, moved to our environment today, and that we have to learn from each other. So we are fully compliant with this. We know that there are initiatives within the member states Italy was among the first to start, Portugal as well, Norway with the polar areas, and in Spain there are many initiatives. No competition at all between what is done at national level and what is done at the European level, trying to really combine all the things and explain how a European infrastructure can support what is done, at the national level, and vice versa, learn from the information that is gathered at the national level to feed these European things. It works very well. And this European DTO is recognized in the discussion of the G7 group in this partnership for the blue economy. And we are building bridges. This is really unique and very interesting. And the last one is the international. We want this European DTO. Okay, it is invented and built in Europe, but it does monitor the whole ocean. It is connected with the experts worldwide. We are all inviting people to connect and be connected with their own twins. And we are using these two main instruments of the UN decade. The program, there is the DITO program, which is fully devoted to digital twins of the ocean. And the European players are real players in DITO. And we are using the other instrument, which is the collaborative center, to coordinate all the action, including the other centers for observing data sharing and coastal resilience, to really make sure that everything is set. And I don't want to neglect or minimize this idea that we are building this digital twin ocean. This is not a single team working somewhere, tiny house to develop something and be very fast and deliver something in 2 years. This is a whole community organizing together. So maybe we're a bit slow at the start, but you can believe me, we will be on time and we will develop something that will really last. So the second point was to immediately capitalize on a common infrastructure. We don't want to run in different tracks. We want to have a common infrastructure. Every time we have something ready, we put it on these infrastructures. And this is putting the engineering at the heart of science. And this is also something which is original. So we made it, for instance, in EMONNET some years ago, in Copernicus some years ago, but here this is a super space of science where we want to really, in less than 2 years, build an infrastructure. So again, the European Commission has been very quick in starting this project, which is EDITO Infra, asking EMONNET and Copernicus to meet strengths and to develop something that could be the foundation of this European digital twin ocean. So we have started, this is called EDITO Infra, and also activate other projects such as the one on the right to make sure that we will have the tools that are there to make it live, this European DTO. The philosophy behind this is the following, very simple idea. We start with this architecture, the basis, we call it EDITO. We ask the engineers from EMONNET and Copernicus to make something solid. Then we put all the data together, all the EMONNET data, all the Copernicus marine data, in situ observations, satellite observations, model forecast, reanalysis, reprocessing, everything will be in the same database. And believe me, this is the first time it will happen. Same format, same things, interoperability, completely clear. And because it is a digital twin ocean, we are adding all the tools, engines, artificial intelligence, all the things that are there to transform the data and play with this. And this is only engineering at the stage. We switch on this DTO, and we have this first idea of what is the ocean as seen by EMONNET, Copernicus, all the teams, and this is lively. You have the currents, you can go down the water column, you can see the things in the future, in the past, and in different variables, and this is something that we have already, okay? But this is not the end. We ask Iliad to come to enter to join the party, and they have data, they have tools, they have innovation things, and we put all the assets in the same platform than the two others. And so we put the data in the data, the engine in the engine, and we have at the end the same thing for all the projects that are invited to this. So for instance, a project working on the coastal, we ask them to put the data, the tools, the front office, and we arrive at the end with this kind of possibility to activate coastal local twin based on this super infrastructure that is proposed by Europe. And this is what we are currently doing. And if we continue this way, we will be able with this European Digital Twin Ocean, these infrastructures, to have tools and application facilities or places when you can play with different policy areas that are driven by the Green Deal, the zero pollution, the biodiversity, etc. A few examples to give you some flavor of what we're doing. I like this one because it was so simple that we can understand. The blue dots, these are the turtles. And these brown things, this is an index about the habitat suitability. I mean, the temperature of the sea and the chlorophyll. So the turtles, just to check if the turtles, they love warm water with chlorophyll or not, and so we try to follow what they are. And the thing is that we have a database on biology, turtles, database on environment, and we have the same things on this platform, and we have artificial intelligence tools. You can then derive some statement about this. And if you are a policymaker thinking about having a marine protected area somewhere in the Atlantic for protecting these species, then you have all the tools. So very simple idea, but having the tools and all the database to all the same place can generate this possibility. We invited also people that are working on plastic pollution, on marine, on everything to generate these kind of things. So that the policymakers in Spain, they can talk to the French and maybe also to the Tunisian or Italy and Malta about an agreement for managing the plastic pollution to an agreement with really evidence-based tool. And the last one is managing the coast with natural-based solution. This is made by ERO in Germany that will be set up on this. So that we can really play with digital twin ocean and then asking real questions and fixing real problems with this. I'm reaching the end of the talk to say that the beauty of this is that the plan is co-created while moving forward. We have no time to set the plan for the next 10 years, so we decided to run fast. And then we meet frequently, and this is the role of the Digital Ocean Forum, the one that was in June in Brussels. We had a first meeting a few months after the declaration of the President of the European Commission. And look at this slide. This is where we enter in the room. A lot of projects. Think about the innovation that you have in the room when you are in this forum. A lot of ideas, super experts, resources to work further for the next year. And I'm very grateful to Iliad because they transformed this into that one. And so this is a slide made by Iliad to say, okay, I am Project Iliad. This is the super architecture that we are developing together. The goal is to deliver a service, a digital twin ocean. I'm here. I can take care of this part, which is to welcome the users and take care of wind energy, for instance. I will take care of, and also I can contribute to the ocean data space. And I know that EuroGOOS will do that part. I know that research infrastructures will do that. I trust that editor will do that part, etc. So we have transformed this situation into a real architecture and a plan for science to service transition. Last slide. The EU has successfully kicked off this European Digital Twin Ocean. I really think that the EU made it to start this. Innovation everywhere, including in the way the program is implemented. This can become an exemplary EU program of a science to service community implementation. We can be proud as a marine community to do this. And well, in 1 year, we will have demonstrated that this is feasible, and we will need 1 decade to reach maturity. This is not at all the end of the story, and we are very humble about what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you, Pierre. That was really great. I think what you managed to do in that presentation is break down the complexity and the challenge of building a digital twin of the ocean, which when you think about it a little bit too much, makes my brain hurt. But you've demonstrated that there is actually the possibility and the potential and the focus on collaboration and building on what already has been developed. Actually, we will realize digital twins of the ocean. If not in next year, but in 10 years, we will have something phenomenal. And I think that's a really great thing. So thank you for that presentation. We now have a panel session with some really fantastic guests. And they represent really the you could call it the data value chain from observations of the ocean all the way through to building a digital twin and everything in the middle, and also how policy will use it. So I'll welcome to the stage, first of all, Inga Lips. Inga is the Secretary General of the European Global Observing System, EuroGOOS. So representing the data gathering, which if we didn't have data on the ocean, we wouldn't have a digital twin. So welcome, Inga. Next up is Kate Larkin, who's the head of the Secretariat for EMODNet. I don't think I need to introduce EMODNet, but EMODNet has done a fantastic job over the last decades in creating a single place where you can go and access data. They're now adapting a little bit to this new way of thinking around digital twins, and have put in a lot of work into doing that and providing data in a way that's usable for digital twins. And then a very exciting next person, Deniz Disa from Turkey. Deniz actually has experience in building digital twins. Deniz is a marine ecosystem modeler in integrating physical, chemical, and biological processes in the ocean. And although is based in Turkey, has worked previously on creating a digital twin of a coral reef. So that's a very exciting project. So please welcome. And finally, we have also Pierre, you already know, and Elisabetta. Please join us on the stage. So again, just to start the session by saying we have the open chair. I would encourage anybody who has any thoughts on questions, please make your way to the front. There's a whole line of seats. There's more than 10, so please come and sit at the front, then I'll know. What I wanted to do though is sort of take us through a journey of how you get to a digital twin of the ocean, or digital twins of the ocean. I'm using the plural intentionally. And I'm going to start with Inga, because Inga, you represent the efforts to collect data on the ocean. So my question to you is, digital twins of the ocean require a change in thinking around data collection. It requires a much more real-time, if not real-time, then really close to real-time, access to observational data. How far along have we come in developing the European Ocean Observation System, in creating a system that can support digital twins?
Thank you for the question. Okay, it starts working. And thank you very much for organizers giving me this opportunity to emphasize the importance of ocean observations here in this panel. And this is actually, before I start answering your question, I would like to begin with is when I was applying to my very first research project, and that was based on collecting enormous amount of new data in the Baltic Sea to try to understand how the coastal upwellings are influencing the plankton communities. Then the reviewers opposed, saying that, why does she want to spend so much money and time to collect new data? We have been gathering data for 30 years, 40 years in the Baltic Sea. Why doesn't she just take the old data and make her conclusions? What I would like to say and emphasize, and I think that also the previous presentations showed it quite well, we need a continuous data, we need a new data also, and we need routinely long-term data. So to come back to your question about the near real-time data, I think that we are quite far in this, thankfully to our European networks of different observing platforms. And what I would like to emphasize, which is important when we are talking about the observations and the data, is the quality of the data. And if we're talking about the near real-time data, this should also be delivered as quality controlled. So we have advanced in last years quite a lot in standardizing our observations and data, and also the developing the near real-time quality control procedures. Now, when we are looking at the different types of data that could be delivered in near real time, then I should say that we are quite far behind, because what we have are mostly the physical data, temperature and salinity, but we are still lacking in near real time the biochemical data. So this is something that we really need to improve and work on. And the other thing that I wanted also to emphasize here is that the observations are mostly financed by the nations, meaning that the observation plans respond to the national priorities and also to different European policy requirements, but they do not necessarily support collecting observations and collecting data for the initiatives like Digital Twin of the Ocean or the different pan-European services. So this is something that we really need to start thinking about, how to engage better the nations to commit also into those pan-European initiatives and data collections. Because if we are not kind of working towards the same goal, it's very difficult to sustain also those initiatives and services. So yes, we have advanced a lot in near real-time data delivery, but there is also a long way to go.
I was expecting that answer, but thank you. So maybe next up, Kate, as somebody who's been building some of the underlying architecture for the eDitto and services which other people, and I should also say, I mean, we're talking a lot about digital twins today, and it's a very nice topic to talk about. It's very visual. You can imagine it on your mind. But there's also a lot of other use cases for services like EMODnet and EuroGOOS and all of the things that we're talking about today. So maybe I was going to ask you, could you talk a bit about the need for trusted data services in developing digital twins of the ocean and what EMODNet's doing to achieve that?
Yes, thank you very much, Tom, and pleasure to be here. So trusted marine data services are really the foundation, the building blocks, the backbone, let's say, of the digital twins of the ocean. And as Pierre has very well outlined for the European digital twin ocean, it's the public infrastructures of EMODNet and Copernicus Marine Service that are jointly producing this backbone. And this is needed because you need for a digital twin for these big data analytics, for these modeling and scenario building, for these cloud computing applications, you really need a very structured, standardized and interoperable approach to data. And this is exactly what these two marine services are already doing. They're already working in the digital space, and they're now working together to deliver this backbone. I think it's also, you've mentioned, Tom, it's important to reflect that the DTO is a very exciting new layer, I would say, for services for users. So this will really revolutionize decision-making, research, etc. But let's not forget that the two marine data services are already have a very large user base. So for example, for the Mission Ocean, for the research projects that are delivering data into these services, but also using these baseline data for their work, the blue economy, policy work for MSFD, MSP, etc. These already are using these services, and a lot of those users will continue to use those services. They may not even need a DTO. And this sort of use of the data is purely because these two data services have built a very trusted service with a community that really want to go to these services. And that's because of the data pipeline. This is because from the ocean observations through to the data management, national data centers, companies providing data, there is a very clear pipeline now. That it may be complex for different thematics, but there is a pipeline of protocols for ocean observing and standards, protocols for standardizing the data. So when you actually get to the services, they're fully integrated and users can trust, those data. So that's been a really important foundation for what's to come, with the DTO. And I'll just finish by mentioning about how EMODNet has prepared for that. EMODNet has been evolving the last few years. In the last 2 years or so, there's been a lot of technical effort to centralize all of the data services EMODNet has. And this was really a crucial stage before being ready for a DTO. So we now have all unified services, a common map viewer, so you can search across all EMODNet's offer. And this is underpinned critically by a common metadata catalog. So this is the last point, that with data, you obviously need to describe the data so that you have the provenance that also builds the trust in the use. And this common metadata catalog of EMODNet now is the building block for this data lake, which we're jointly producing with Copernicus.
Great, thank you, Kate. And I think that one of the things I really take away from that is that what you're building to serve the digital twin actually also has benefits to all of the other users, and the part about interoperability is music to my ears. So thank you for mentioning that. Dennis, I'm going to move on to you. You are somebody who actually builds very, very specific applications. You can call them digital twins, but you're an ecosystem modeler. You have experience working in the Black Sea now. So I'm curious to know your experience on accessing data. How have you found it?
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'm very glad to hear your perspectives because what I was planning to say in this session agrees very well with your perspectives. So I'm an ocean modeler. I've been working with three-dimensional numerical ocean models that simulate coupled physical, chemical, and biological processes in the ocean. Now, I very well know that what I'm doing, and maybe even what you have just heard from me, sounds too technical and abstract to some of the audience, but I will try to do my best to, explain it simply and clearly so that we can all understand the relationship between the ocean models and the data and the data sets. So these three-dimensional models that I work for a coral reef system, I'm working for the Black Sea at the moment. These three-dimensional models can simulate the hydrodynamics in 3D. So 2 dimension comes from the horizontal space, and the 3rd dimension is the depth. So these models simulate the circulation, the movement of the water in 3-dimensional space, and they also simulate the transport of chemicals with this circulation from one point in the region to the other. So they can also simulate the chemical cycles. It's quite complex. They can simulate the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, iron, manganese if needed. And these can also include the biology. I said they're coupled physical, chemical, and biological models, right? So they can also include the biology. This means that they can simulate how organisms living in the ocean interact with these chemicals, these 3D flowing chemicals. They take up some of these chemicals into their bodies for their metabolic activities, and they release some chemicals back to the seawater, and these chemicals are again transported with the circulation and maybe taken up by another organism. So this biology can be represented like in many of the 3-dimensional coupled physical chemical models. This biology is represented only by the planktons, but the biology may also contain the fish. It may be species specific, or the models can contain the entire food web from plankton to mammal, plankton to fish and up to mammals, and sometimes fisheries. So the system is complex. If we want to set and run such a model for a region, let's say for the coast of Vigo, we want to feed the system with observations from the region. So we want to, for instance, in order to compute the hydrodynamics, 3D hydrodynamics, we want to give we should give the model temperature and salinity fields for each point in the 3D space, so that the model can compute these hydrodynamical equations, and it can provide us time series for each point in this 3D space. So this time perspective is the 4th dimension. So let's say we could set the model for the coast of Vigo, and it runs and it produces some large files with lots of numbers in it. So they're not very user-friendly for like the citizens, for policymakers, but these large files are later post-processed by some other tools, for decision support tools, by artificial intelligence. They're like being visualized, and then they are used for decision-making. So I said that for setting the model for the coast of Vigo, we need measurements from the coast of Vigo. But after the model runs and produces some results, as modelers, we are also responsible for taking these model outputs, going back to the data sets, and comparing the model results with the data sets to make sure that the model can capture the reality. This is called model validation. And like ideally, we should be able to do it with as many points as possible in the 3D space. But as Inga very well mentioned, that we have relatively more data for the temperature and salinity fields, but we don't have it for the biogeochemical properties. For instance, I modeled a coral reef system, and it was a system which was also called a data heaven, but apparently we realized that there were no dissolved inorganic carbon, alkalinity measurements in the data, and I was trying to simulate the carbonate chemistry, and then corals, respond to the changes in pH, etc. Yeah, so it's true and great that the numbers of observations have been increasing. The satellites are becoming more powerful since the first EurOCEAN conference. I heard that it was 30 years ago, but they can provide information only from the surface. But we need the ocean interior information. And the floating devices measure the ocean interior, provide info for us to compare what's happening at the depth. The number of these floating devices are increasing, but it's still very, very far from being enough. This is important because these digital twins rely on the forecasting capacity of these three-dimensional models. When we are sure that the three-dimensional models can represent today, we can use them to forecast the future. And this forecasting capacity of the three-dimensional models very much rely on the data availability. So I think there is still we are doing our best to simulate the systems, but there is a long way to go, as Inga said.
Great, thank you very much. I don't see anybody coming up to the front, so please take a seat. Then I can ask my other questions afterwards. And as always, even if you've been on stage before, please just introduce yourself to refresh us.
Hello, so I'm Iwan, so the young ambassador from European Marine Board. I have questions. You already mentioned some answers to that questions, but so we are talking about having a digital twin of the ocean, and we saw that you implemented a plan to go from the databases to the simulation and modeling. But we know that coastal and surface areas are better known compared to offshore areas, bottom of the ocean, and the water column. And we lack also so much data about the interaction between physical-chemical dynamics and biological responses. So what are your priorities to fill these gaps, and how can we deal with the gaps that will remain even in 10 years from now?
Inga, I think that might be a question for you, but welcome others to and Kate.
I think it's a question for everyone, but yeah, I would like to reflect on that. I think Europe has currently a very good priority, and this is to developing further the Argo floats that we are contributing to the global Argo program. And when we are talking about, the regions away from the coast and the open ocean, then I see Argo floats is really something irreplaceable that we can use to study the interior of the ocean. And current Argo float development is allowing us, besides temperature and salinity, also observe for biochemical parameters, so that we are capable of collecting more information from the ocean interior right now. So I think we are moving in a very good direction, but to really have this program fully developed and set, there is a need for resources for that, because those biochemical Argo floats, they cost 3 times more than the core Argo floats. So it's a huge commitment that Commission has kind of announced and ready to support. And this is also very much on the member states who are belonging to the EuroArgo-ERIC.
Yes, just to complement that, then I think the data services can also be part of the puzzle in terms of assessing data gaps. And the reason being that the integrated data services are aggregating data from hundreds of sources. So it's the research, the policy-driven or the national authority, regulatory monitoring data, you've got private sector data all coming together and then being standardized and integrated. And from that, you can at least get some sense of where there may be gaps. For instance, Mediterranean, the pan-Mediterranean basin data, biological data, etc. These are gaps that we know in EMODNet just from looking at the data that has been integrated. There are some data still hidden, but in some cases there are real gaps as well. And I think it's interesting to see how looking at these data adequacy of what these services have aggregated, what they can provide, potentially identifying gaps and then working together with the ocean observing community as part of the puzzle, I think is important.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Elizabeth, I saw that you're keen to answer as well. I think the microphone should be on. You just
Yes, just wanted to come. Is it on?
Yeah,
It's on. Complement that indeed we are very well aware of this, let's say, gap of missing biological data, which are produced in the frame of several projects. So we are working at it. So for the biodiversity, microbiomes, eDNA. So we are integrating, at least facilitating the integration in the current platforms. But this is, of course, it's a joint effort. We need the inputs from all, and we need the platform to be ready to absorb it. But we are well aware of that, and it's indeed a very important effort, which is ongoing. Thank you.
And finally, Pierre, I think you also wanted to say something.
Just a quick one. You're very right. This is absolute priority. There is something that we need also to do is to move to operations, what is ready for operations. Because the thing is that we are spending funding, research funding, to maintain observations that are absolutely critical for operational services. So if we could recognize that there are operational services that are to be sustained, funded with operational money, like the satellites for the in-situ observations, then we could have this capacity that is maintained. And then you could allocate the research funding to something that is specific that you want to unlock. And this is exactly this is one of the challenge which is behind this digital twin ocean, because we are reaching now an operational service that will meet the requirements from policymakers, for high-level politicians that are really, they're looking for this. So the more we can develop operational services with this digital twin ocean, science-based, but operational, then we can maybe reallocate some funding on what you're mentioning, just to prepare the rest. The problem we have in oceanography is that the satellites are okay, the forecast okay, and the in-situ observations, they rely on research, which is something that should change.
Especially in the deep sea where UN operates, not so useful having satellites, but thank you. Next person. There's quite a few people at the front now. Great.
Hello. Hi, I'm Laura Viglitz. I'm from the ClimaRest project, where I'm the data manager, and I'm helping build a digital toolbox. I have a question about standards, because we're all talking about we have standards, we have a metadata catalog, but in many cases, many people don't know about these standards, and it's quite hard to communicate them. I've tried to make some examples following Darwin Core and try to communicate these to people. But many times people have never structured their data in this way, and they just want to get out in the field and collect their data, and they're not really thinking about how their data is structured. How do we go about communicating this, and how do we do this? Because I think this is a really central step, because otherwise we can't serve our data to the digital twins of the ocean.
Now, as a moderator, I'm not supposed to answer questions, but with my Iliad hat on, I just wanted to highlight one of the aspects of the Iliad project. And I think this demonstrates, and I will come on to asking about how all of these initiatives work together, because there are 187, nearly 200 initiatives. One of the technical components within the Iliad project is to develop what's called an ocean information model. And that would sit on top of a data set that you as a researcher would create, and it would work to translate your metadata to a standardized format. And I think it's really key. I think like these kinds of topics often get overlooked when talking about like digital twins and the big thing. But as Kate was talking about interoperability and you're talking about metadata standards, it's really, really crucial. And I think that's one of the challenges maybe with all of these different initiatives, is trying to highlight where each of them plays a role, and they played many different roles. And there are lots of different really exciting, I think it's exciting having an ocean information model for standardizing metadata. Some people may disagree, but there's sometimes a bit of a challenge of seeing who's doing what. That's my perspective. Kate, did you? Yeah, please.
Yes. To add then from the perspective of eModnet as a data service, I think there's also a role that eModnet already plays, but could do more in terms of providing these metadata standards to the research community. Because as Tom has mentioned, there is one element where maybe a data set is already collected and then it has to be translated or effort put in to fill the gaps in metadata, to describe it, or to standardize the data. But there's also a real opportunity, I think, for the data services to provide the common standards that we already use, the European Inspire standards, the ISO meta standards that are internationally recognized, and to provide those to the research community. We're actually planning a webinar in early next year, which we will invite all the Mission Ocean projects and Horizon projects to discuss exactly this, because I think it's really important to provide this information as a standardized template. We have minimum metadata standards, for example, and if these can be given to the data collectors, then from that first part of the ocean observing and data collection, the right fields are being collected, and then it's already compatible, with data services. So it would help the standardization process be a lot more efficient.
Great. Thanks. Anybody else want to come in on that one? It's a really good topic. Thank you for raising it. Next question, please.
Thanks. So my name is Cosimo Soridoro, and I would like to build a bit on the previous comment on the gaps to be filled in this digital twin stuff. So as disclaimer, I'm a supporter of digital twin. I myself am a modeler by training, and I've been the president of the International Society for Ecological Modeling. I'm the head of the department of the Italian Oceanography Institute, and we play a prominent role, I would say, in both EMODNet and Copernicus. So I'm super excited about this digital twin stuff and super willing to contribute. And I really believe that digital twin is something that we have to look for, now to build and so on and so forth. Still, I think that we need to raise a word of concern on what we are promising to society, and the reliability of our results. We sell them as services. I think that's fair to acknowledge that all the EMODNet data that we contribute to and all the Copernicus model that we contribute to are just a fraction of ocean and ocean life. And that it will take more than 10 years before to be able to provide services for ocean life, especially if we target the time and space scale which are relevant for society, meaning the coastal zone. Of course, we have to do that. Who, if not us? I mean, we are the expert. You have to provide this kind of quantitative advice that society needs. Still, it's very easy to lose credibility towards society, and it's very difficult to gain trust again. So I think that we have to be careful on the timeline and what we promise, and be very transparent on uncertainty and all the gaps to be filled. And last comment to close on a positive side, I like very much the first statement of the European officer about the digital twins. We will not have a single digital twin model able to solve everything, but we will have many, many different digital twins able to tackle different problems. And at that point, also the previous remark, we have to be able to provide a way to harmonize everything and give to the site back this service. But before it will be a service, I think we will need more than 10 years if we still keep on working on that, of course.
Really good point. Actually, one of my questions to Pierre was, how do you build these digital twins are obviously very technically complex, but equally complex is aligning the communities, and biological modeling is one community. And I think that's one of the things that you demonstrated in your presentation, that the challenge is how you connect these different communities together to bring them into these digital twins. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yes, and comment about this digital twins versus digital twin, because it took us some time at the community to agree on what we were doing and how to name the thing. If we say that when we're talking about digital twin, it means that we know how to simulate the things, but we want to now have a two-way interaction and just to give the hand to the users so that it can really interact. We have digital twins everywhere, and this is really a fractal things. I mean, everything we do can be transformed into a twin, which means that we accelerate the interactivity, we improve in this. And in some areas we will be good, in others we will be excellent, and in others we will be late. And we have to accept this, and this is exactly where we are with oceanography, and we have some areas where we are good in predicting these variables. Others, we are working very hard to catch up with what is the expectation of the society, and we're not there. And I think this is perfectly understood at our level, but you're right that we should not super publicize the super magic digital twin that will fix everything, because this is not at all what will be the case. But where I disagree with you is that we don't need to wait for 10 years or 20 years before to be ready. In a way, we are already now at the stage where we can propose something which is maybe the first hint of what could be a digital twin. And in 2 years, we would be a bit better. Then we will have some areas where it can work. And then in et cetera, et cetera. So this is really a progressive and step-by-step approach. And we will have to be a bit better in the way we recognize some areas. But this is critically dependent on two things: to have a super efficient European infrastructures that can welcome all the things, okay? And to have super dynamic and active community in Europe and worldwide to take care of this specific topic that is required to meet this specific need. And the more we can build this community of experts and these engineering infrastructures together, the better. But we will learn how to explain this digital twinning story. But I really think that this is a fractal thing.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth, did you want to talk about it from the citizen perspective of managing expectations and setting expectations?
Yes, thank you, Tom. And indeed, maybe I wanted still to further comment on this, because this, I think there is also an understanding that there is a sort of proliferation of initiatives for the digital twin, which is very welcome. Actually, we very much need that, this multitude of small twins or initiatives which contribute to the digital twin. But what is, and is very much needed, what we are trying to do, and the key element, and Pierre already mentioned it, is the connection among these initiatives. What we are facilitating is the connection, the sort of coordination, offering a platform where everybody can input the data and try to work at this interoperability and standard, which is a very difficult issue, but we are trying to work on that. And so that means that we need an effort from both sides. We offer a platform, a common platform, and then we need that each project, and we are not thinking only of scientific and technological projects, can be citizens initiatives which are collecting data, crowd data, the citizens which are collecting with their apps data, or on site, and with an evolution, because it's dynamic data. So we are offering this, and we need an effort from all to reserve some space and to contribute to the platform. So it's a joint effort. It's not to monopolize or centralize, but it's to build on the diversity of the multitude that we very much need, and try to synergize, make synergies so that we reach faster our common objectives. Now, the public engagement is a key aspect. It's a key aspect for all our mission. It's certainly a key aspect for the DTO. And for us, it's key that the public at large is involved since the very early stages of the DTO development. I know this is very difficult, because it's already very difficult, and Pierre and all the community is doing a huge effort together with us to already break this fragmentation in the scientific community and bring them all together. But it's not enough. It's necessary, very much necessary, not enough. We need all the others on board. We need the citizens initiative. So where are the citizens? We need to speak with them now, not come and impose it once it's ready, because we know very well by experiences in many other sectors, whether it's, even the biotechnologies, the GMOs, or whatever. You need to involve and discuss with the citizens. We need to co-design this CTO together with the citizens since a very early phase. So this is an additional effort, which is very important. And then also because it needs to serve the citizens. So the citizens engagement is key. The engagement, maybe if I can mention another element which is key, it's, for example, the regional engagement. Where are the regions? Today in Brussels, my colleagues, we have a week of regions, and we have a special session dedicated to our mission. Now, also for the DTO, we believe that regions need to be engaged since the early stages, because they will be the ones implementing. So we should go in the regions with the regional authorities, offer, for example, demonstration. What is a DTO? What does it mean in practice for my region? Because then they have the power, they will have to take decisions and then to implement them. So involve also citizens at large, the regions, for example, since a very early phases in the co-design and accompanying the process in all the steps since the very beginning. And again, I would say my last comment is that still for the citizen engagement, since we know that, for example, artificial intelligence will play a very important role, and Pierre demonstrated it already very well, how key it will be, and it will help us to visualize, to make the models. But of course, there are also risks, and there it's not only risk of validating what an artificial intelligent model could put in the public, or that we must make sure that it's, it's credible and it's used for the good, for the benefit, and not with dual uses. But also there is an importance of citizens' engagement. We cannot wait too late, when it's too late, to to present something which can happen like it's a monster, it's somebody's controlling my life with a twin. And this was an aspect which was highlighted in the forum that we did in March. So the ethical aspects and the societal awareness and therefore the societal involvement, it's key, and it's not to be underestimated. Because first of all, it's fully legitimate and it should be the way to go. And secondly, it could create serious problem. If we create a perfect DTO and then we impose it, society will not accept it. And that's not the purpose. So I
very good point.
Several concepts which are key.
Yeah, excellent. No, thank you for that comment. Good. Thank you very much for the question. You really stimulated a good debate there. Gilles, I think you were next, and I'm kind of working my way down the line, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you again. So you know me. I like to be the bug. In Paris we talk a lot about these bed bugs. So everybody know that. So I like to be one of them and try to be a little bit provocative. Even if Pierre has already answered part of what I wanted to ask. First, I would like to recommend. I use this to recommend one of the position paper of the European Marine Board on ocean observation. You can find that on the internet, and I think it's quite important because there are several recommendations. So today we talk about digital twin of the ocean. We talk about the big beast, and I would like to just take part of the experience I have with policymakers. When you talk about them, they say, "What is that? You want to have a twin of the ocean and you are not able to give the forecast after 2 days, and how you can predict what could happen in the ocean," and so on. And after they say, "Wow, 2 years ago happened a big storm in Corsica. Nobody was able to predict. There was a lot of accident. How come we were not able to predict?" I say, "Because you don't have enough observation. The ocean is transforming. You have a heat and degrees in the Mediterranean Sea will increase very rapidly, and nobody was able to predict." And my question is, as say Pierre, when we have a beast where we could be able to do models. So first, Pierre explained that it's layers. We can have a part of the modelization where we want, but when we have a beast, we need to feed it. We need this operational observation. And today, as you said, and unfortunately, it's only a community of researchers, is research project, research institute who are financing ocean observation. And if we continue like that, it's a part of the research who is going to the infrastructure to need to feed a beast. We have this European ocean observing system, EOS, where we try to sustain it. Europe say we will be the leader of the digital twin of the ocean at the One Ocean Summit in Brest in 2022. And we are waiting to see how we can go for sustained observation operational, because we need this data. We talk about the data, the system where they are fitted. Thank you for MONet to try to merge all the data, but it's not sustained. So we have, part of one, sometimes it's a guy from the deep sea will come and say, "What do we do with my data? What do we do with that?" It's a part of his work. So my question is, when do you think we will be able to have sustained operational financing data like the European Space Agency, where they have this satellite? Pierre has already said that. Don't you think we could have a European Ocean Agency, something like that, or Sea Agency? And I would like to congratulate Dennis because her first name in Turkish means sea. So it's nice to have somebody who look after the ocean and sea with a first name like sea, Mer. So it's very nice, Dennis. So I would like to know, so sorry, I stop now. If you have any idea when maybe in Europe we will be able to sustain our observation for a long period of time, not dealing with one friend to another friend who send that to the DTO, to Mercator and things like that. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of took microphone. Good that you mentioned EOS, European Ocean Observing System. It's not yet there, but we are aiming to build it. And I'm very glad to see that all the EU strategy and roadmap plans are taken from our table. So that means that now everyone is aware what EOS is, because it's very often I meet that people are not aware that we are trying to build something common for all of us and try to reduce the fragmentation that we can currently have. Come back to your question. I think that none of us can respond to that to say when it will happen, but we need to work towards that. And we really need to work with nations and regions, because as I said, currently they are mostly financing it. You are correct. Most of the finances are coming through the research projects, which are short-term projects. And this is not a sustainable way to have our operational oceanography in place, operational observations in place, and operational services in place and sustained. So we need to better convince the governments and the decision makers that we have one ocean, that we have one European sea around us. Everything is connected, meaning that we all need to have one priority, and we all need to contribute to achieve this priority and to achieve the EOS that integrates all the different fragmented systems that we currently have. This is a long way to go. It needs a lot of political will. It needs a lot of mindset changes, because as I was introduced, I have been also leading the Estonian Environment Marine Monitoring Program. And what I experienced during these years and also working at the HALCOM was that we have our observation plans fixed for decades. And if we are looking at these observation plans in more detail, we can see that with just the small shifts, we can change the world. We can use the resources we have better, the funding resources, but also the human resources that we have. And when I have been asking from different communities that, okay, let's make this change. We don't need to go in the middle of the Baltic Sea to take samples, exactly all the research vessels on the same months, on the same week, and we are kind of making a traffic jam around one station to take samples. Instead, we can divide the obligations between different nations. And the response that I have got quite often is that all our programs are historic. We have historic data sets. We do not want to break these historic long-term data sets. So we have to be all there second week of July and take our samples exactly at the same time. So we need to change that.
Great.
I hope that there are some policymakers watching the YouTube, so and I will give them the link, so it's important.
Elisabetta, I also saw that you grabbed the mic. Maybe you wanted to say something as well.
Yes, Julia, you're very right. And what I can say is that surely Europe actually, it's an ocean union, as our director often says. So, and our life depends on the ocean. So the efforts we are doing efforts even in the short term, because we know there is an urgency. We need to act with what we have now while the production of knowledge continues. But now we need to pass what Pierre very well said, from a project to services, and to have it really now in place by next year. And it's a first effort, and I think it's a remarkable effort. We need to ensure, and we hope that it will remain sustainable. We also hope that you mentioned, for example, a European Ocean Agency. Of course, I cannot commit formally, but indeed, you know, if we are an ocean union, it's clear that the efforts in the ocean, which is our inner space, you know, we are investing in space, which is correct, but actually our inner space on which our own life depends also requires huge efforts. So it would make sense. So we have a good hope for that. This is all what I can say.
Yes, that's good. I think things have progressed since I first heard about the proposal for a European Ocean Agency. There's buy-in, Jill, so maybe we're getting closer.
And
Hang
I
on in there.
strongly support it because this is also something that we foresee when building European Ocean Observing System.
Great. Let's see a question from the audience. We've got still 10 minutes left, so I think we'll get through all of the questions. Yeah, make it.
Hello, my name is Peter Tuddenham from the College of Exploration. I've been involved with ocean literacy for 20 years, and I'd like to thank EuroGOOS for a great pamphlet on ocean literacy that they published. I wear many hats. This has been a wonderful panel. I think this is the future, and it's a great representation. My concern is that for all of these ideas to be implemented in this digital twin area, we need not only ocean literacy, but systems literacy, network literacy, data literacy, and importantly, model literacy as well. I went to the Copernicus meeting in Toulouse in 2018 and talked to modelers, and many modelers don't like to change their model when they have new data. And I think that this is a real problem. But my real hat that I'm wearing here is to represent, as one of the co-founders and former board members of the European Marine Science Educators Association.eu, EMC.eu. I haven't heard the word education this morning, and I'm really deeply concerned that that is not a parallel effort that is really brought forward. I mean, if you want thank you, Elisabetta, for that great inspiration and vision, but, you know, for citizens to be involved, the young people that we had hearing from yesterday and from Evelyn this morning about ocean literacy. I mean, this has to be in the K through 12 in American speak, but in the, you know, elementary, middle school, high school curriculums now. I mean, the kids, my grandkids are excited by technology, but I haven't heard that here. So that's my passion. I think, you know, let's get education involved in this now while the digital tin. And I'd just like to hear how perhaps quickly each of you might say, we might think about that or do that. So shall I hand the microphone?
Yep.
Thank you very much for stepping up here and making that important position. Ocean literacy is, I think, a key, but and we are doing, I think all of us, we are doing a lot to educate and train different generations, but also different communities, because ocean literacy is not just for school children. And I think we are doing a great job at schools and also at the higher school levels, not only elementary schools. But what we really need to put now our efforts is to educate better the citizens, to educate better policymakers, governments, different sectors, so that everyone really understands the importance of ocean observations in their everyday lives. Because it's really common that people are taking ocean observations as something granted and even not thinking about what's behind these forecasts that they are looking every morning. So we are working towards that, and this is also one big pillar in the current European Ocean Observing System roadmap plan, so that we have dedicated the entire action for communication and to better training the people also. And what was also mentioned before, that it's difficult to find information about the training activities, and I totally agree with that. This is where we also need to make a kind of a change how we communicate between ourselves, because what we right now do, that when we have the different types of, like, let's say, data trainings, data management trainings, then this is distributed through the project websites. This is distributed through the LinkedIn. But if I'm not a social media person, if I do not follow that project, this information will never get to me. So we need also to think how to advance this.
Great, thanks. I'm keen to get everyone's perspective on it. So maybe Kate, you could just ask you to be very quick on the answers, but I would like to hear from everybody on this topic.
Yes, so very quickly to respond quickly to what's just been mentioned in terms of training in the data services and future for DTO. A lot of eModNet thematics, the coordinators and all of the networks are already very active in training, not only in Europe, but also internationally. So we work with the Ocean Teachers Academy of UNESCO, where they have regional centers. And those are all commonly shared. So whenever there's a training, it's then publicly available through the ODTA website. We're also looking to develop training with Copernicus for the future, DTO. And then the second point was in terms of education, ocean literacy, eModNet is still the sort of main users are the professional users, let's say, but the eModNet data layers, 280 of them, in fact, are in the European Atlas of the Seas, which is an EC communication tool, which is used for ocean literacy. And so at the eModNet Secretariat, we coordinate the technical development of that, but also the communication and the outreach. And we have specialists that work with teaching professionals, education professionals. We're developing, it's really in the middle, let's say, of the ongoing process, but we are developing data layers that have storytelling with them, that have teaching resources that can actively be used because they've been developed by education professionals. So this is an emerging area, but it's something we're really interested in. And the European Atlas of the Seas also is broader than eModNet. It brings in some Copernicus data, also land and sea interface. So I think it's a really interesting tool where eModNet and other data can sort of shine in terms of ocean literacy.
Dennis,
because I'm a modeler, I would like to comment on a different point that you have just mentioned about the data and the model efforts are not going in parallel, and then the modelers you met, I don't know who they are, but they are not willing to change their models when the new data is becoming available. So I can maybe only explain that so the models are so complex. I try to simplify it, but when we change one single parameter, the whole system may change. So we spend like lots of time just to decide on a proper value of a particular parameter, like I said, respiration rate, mortality rate of a single species, and imagine that we have lots of species, like thousands of parameters in the model. This may be the reason why they are not really willing to look at that side when new data is available. If they, and I also mentioned that we don't have data, and within an environment that we don't have so much data, we try to find a way. And then it may very well happen that what you assume might be realistic is not realistic in the end. But this is not what we are doing in our group, and this is what the model development is. So they keep developing all the time. We always try to work on these parameters, equations, just to better represent the system, so they can go hand in hand, this improvement in the models and the data.
very, very quick, because there's
Very,
two
very
more
quick.
questions. So
Just to say that literacy indeed is key for us, and we support many, many initiatives. By the way, my colleague Andrea Strachinesco, who is head of unit in DG Mare, is also here with us, and she can provide you many more details. But just to say, from kindergarten to primary, secondary, and higher education. And we also support, also within the mission, it's very important, we also support the Blue Schools projects, for example, and a series of initiatives. I think youth is key for us, starting from the young children in all our activities, very important in the mission. We say that our mission should be not only with youth, but by youth. So we really invite them to co-design our mission and co-implement our actions. And I think this element should be also an important part of a DTO. So I'm watching also Pierre, so that we would like to involve, like I mentioned, the citizens at large regions, but also the youth in the DTO design and implementation.
thank you. That's, yeah, I think we've got broad agreement, but a really great topic. I've negotiated, we have one more one more question. I'm sorry, we can't cover everyone, but please be quick, and we'll try and answer quickly as well.
I will try. Hello, my name is Caroline Neben. I'm doing a PhD about zooplankton. And my question is, like, sometimes I have the feeling that the definition of the MPA for biological purpose is like more or less clear or feasible, but the difficulty to implement is like the economical part. And it is difficult to restrict fisheries, for example. So is this something you will try to implement, or which is possible to be addressed in this digital ocean? So will this project bring us further? in this difficulty?
Maybe I'll ask Pierre to quickly respond to that one, and then I'll wrap up.
Okay. Well, as I explained before, this digital twin is an enabler where you can activate different things, and also it's a place where you can have a tools, and then you don't have to decide who will use this tool and what will be the activity that will be carried out with this one. So you can generate regulation, or you can do different things. So this is something that we have to learn now, how to regulate these different things, how to stimulate something which is, for instance, fisheries, which is a tricky area, and try to understand how we would regulate this part. But the first top priority for us is to make it possible to activate research and transfer all the know-how into this platform so that it is possible. And then, just to come back to this, it's useless to open data, tools, etc., with the superb technology if there is no education. So as soon as you open the data and that you enable someone to use this for this award or something which is super or something which is bad, you have to, at the same time, develop training, develop education, impact assessment, and so that they understand what would be the cost of a decision or the impact of one decision. So we are trying to do that. So fisheries is this area where we really need to bring more knowledge, more education, more facility, and go on this one.
Great, thanks. We actually do have time for one more question. So Mark, if you'd like to come to the stage, I can see your name on your badge, but thank you for that. Sorry, we're in a finish, but I understand that we're between you and the lunch. So
it's a quick one, because I think the answer is no.
Then don't answer.
Because I was wondering, I've been involved in setting up EMODNet, the World Register of Marine Species, Ocean Biodiversity Information System, and I have to sit down and try to go quicker. In all those cases, we knew what data we wanted, and we knew where to get it, or we chased up where to get it. It strikes me that DigitalOcean is just serendipitously collecting data from sources, and it doesn't really have a definition of what data it wants, where to get it, and who's going to pay to collect it, right?
And we're not. You're asking if we will pay for the data?
No.
What are you?
What data do you need for DigitalOcean, and do you have a list of the data so that researchers can say, "Oh, I can provide this data," and then countries will say who will pay for the collection?
Never believe that this community is not aware of the top priority for the observations on the data. We do have a list, and if we are asking a priority list, we do have a priority. EuroGOOS has done this one. The European Environment Agency has done this one. EMODNet has done that. Copernicus has done. So we have a list, and so this is not a question of deciding where are the priorities for this community. We know that. The question is how to implement this part.
Okay, and is the list on the website?
No, because it will depend on what the objective is. So, but we have expert people. So I'm not praying with you, just to say that this should not be an excuse for not implementing this capacity program for sustained observations, because usually. Sorry to be a bit too long, but usually the excuse is, well, it's too complex, the ocean. You don't know if we need 3 agro floats there, some moorings, some etc. This is not true. We know exactly what is necessary to feed these super service systems, but you have to ask the experts about the top priority that you have, and then we'll understand the things.
And a quick comment from Kate.
Yes. So just to add then that, I mean, for more than a decade, the services of Copernicus Marine Service and EMODNet, as you know, you were involved, they've been evolving their services for users. So the offer that now exists is based on original user requirements. All those data will be made available in a common data lake. It's not to say there won't be other data that's needed, and priorities and recommendations are always will be welcome. But there's also emerging data flows. I mean, environmental DNA, biodiversity data, these are already in at some level in, say, EMODNet biology and others, but we can do a lot more. And I think there are projects like Elisabetta mentioned, DTO Bioflow, eDNA Aquaplan, and others that are looking at the pipelines of data, looking at how to optimize those through the likes of EMODNet, but many others as well. And I think this is, again, the future.
Great. Thank you. I feel like we could go on and on discussing this, and it would be interesting, but it's lunchtime and I'm sure everybody wants to eat. So I'll just wrap up by thanking all of the panelists and all of the people who came up and asked questions, and the organizers for putting this on the topic. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't get to talk about AI, but next time. The lunch is provided by the European Commission and co-organised, so thank you for that. The next session is going to be really interesting. It's changing humanity's relationship with the ocean, art as an agent of change at 2 o'clock. So thank you to the panelists again. Thank you for taking part and listening. Enjoy lunch.